My granddad decided to knock down the pillar in my room to make the room bigger. Guess what he found? Paranormal or not, what was the scariest thing to ever happen to you? When I was 16, I was being blackmailed by someone who found a nude photo of me and was threatening to show it to everyone. Because I was so young and scared, I let him abuse me and blackmail me. I was very depressed and suicidal at the time, and the blackmail only made it worse. One day, I told him I no longer cared about what he did with the photo, and that I no longer had a desire to live. Instead of posting the photo, he threatened to kill my family. Of course, I called his bluff and told him he didn't know where I lived. I was wrong. He knew everything about me and my family. I felt like I was being selfish at the time, but I said he wouldn't be able to get to me if I killed myself first. His threats continued for days while I contemplated actually ending my life. A few days after his initial threat, I got a call from a blocked number. He told me I had 36 hours to do what he said or he'd go through with his plans. I hung up and called the police. They deemed it a prank call and left it alone. The day after the call, I went to the store with my sister. She had already gone inside, but I was wedged between this big van. The man didn't move or get out. He just stared at me. I opened my door to get out. So did he. I waited for him to go. So did he. After a while, I got frustrated and got out of the car. He got out behind me and immediately grabbed me by my neck and tried to force me into his van. I panicked and bit his hand and stomped on his foot. He let go just enough for me to sprint inside. When I turned to look back, he was already gone. I told my sister about it. She didn't believe me. That night, I stayed up a little longer because I was feeling sick. The front door knob started to turn. I snuck off to grab a knife and looked out the window. It was the same van as before. I grabbed my phone to call the police, but he left. I checked the other sides of the house. He started to try and break in through the back door as well, and then the basement door. He eventually started to pry open the garage door when a police car started coming up the hill to do his rounds. I live in one of those neighborhoods. The man got into his van and left. I never heard from him since. We moved the following year to a different house, and I never knew if he posted the pictures or not. To this day, no one believes me. They said it was a prank gone wrong. But I know what it was. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and consider subscribing. When I was younger, my family had this old computer that they put in my room because I was the one who used it the most. One day, during summer, I was watching a movie on YouTube. Halfway through, I felt someone digging their nails into my back. I bought it was my brother messing with me, so I laughed and told him to knock it out. And then I felt someone doing it again, so that's when I turned. I expected to see my brother, but I saw a white figure with its arm extended towards me. I remember seeing its hand and nails. I quickly ran the F out of my room and went to my brother's room thinking he was messing with me. But he wasn't. He was big chilling in his room the entire time playing on the PS3. I remember I couldn't sleep in my room for at least a week and had my dad pray over my room because I was scared shitless. This happened while I'm on my manic phase. I tried skinny dipping on a cold night last February. I'm from the Philippines and we own a private beach in my hometown. So, I was alone that day. Not a wise move, since I don't know how to swim. Which is ironic, because I was born near the ocean, and everyone here know how to swim. It was maybe past midnight when this happened. I was only swimming near the shore, and I'm pretty sure the cold breeze almost froze my balls that time. I tried to paddle to the much deeper region of the sea, doggy style, but not too far away from the shoreline. For whatever reason that I can't remember, I found myself floating away, and my feet couldn't reach the bottom anymore. My body immediately went from cold to dead cold. That terrified me, but suddenly there's this man. I didn't see his face, because I'm already sinking and panicking, then rising again and everything was blurry and dark. but I'm sure that I really saw a man. He was riding a wooden boat, a traditional looking one which is very common in Asian countries near the Pacific. There's an oil lamp in the middle of the boat which added to the illumination of the area aside from the moon. I tried to grab on something, but his boat didn't have those bamboos on both sides, which is odd. I was worried because I didn't want to die while on my manic frenzy. I shouted for help, thinking that he would somehow help me. Then, his lamp went off before I saw him jump on the water. After that, everything went quiet as the water penetrated my ears. I passed out. I felt my body jerked a couple of times, then it went black. Morning came and I found myself inside one of the cottages. I was thankful that I'm still there, breathing and safe. I remember everything that happened from the previous night vividly. It felt like a dream, except it was not. One of the caretakers told me that I was found inside a floating boat, buck naked. I asked them if they saw a man with me, but they told me that I was alone. I didn't ask them anything in fear that they will tell my parents that I'm not taking my medicine again. I may be on my manic phase that night, but I'm not delusional. I know what I saw and it still confused me because I don't usually believe in supernatural. When I was a teenager walking back home from school, I got this mind-numbing headache, the kind that brings you down to your knees from how painful and insufferable it is. The fear roller coaster started when I got up from the ground and started walking towards the road, not in control of my body at all, as a bus was coming full speed in my direction. Still feeling that damn headache. It felt like I was locked inside my own head, watching through my eyes, while my body was doing its own thing. I don't know how I managed to snap out of it, but I stopped one step before the bus whooshed by me. Would have yeeted me into oblivion if I didn't stop myself there. As soon as I snapped out of it, the headache was gone. I searched online for weeks after the incident, looking for explanations but found none. I don't know what the F that was, but that scared me shitless. I vividly remember sitting on the ground crying after it happened. When I was about 6, our family moved into an old house in England. It was a nice house, but it was extremely old and had a ton of history. In the next street over, there was a hanging station and witch dunking station. It was cemented over, along with the graveyard so nobody could see or steal the bodies. There was an incident before. So our village had an awful lot of creepy history. I remember my primary school trips, and it would be to the cemeteries and the old abandoned warehouse by Tesco which caught on fire several times, as well as to the medieval torture chambers by the bridge and the abandoned mills. But back to my house. My room had a strange pillar in the corner. It wasn't in the original blueprints of the house. It was added sometime after, and it looked like it belonged there, but I knew something was in there. I always told my mum there was a little girl in my room. She was always in the same spot by the strange man-made pillar. She never believed me. She thought I was trying to get attention, but my granddad believed me. He's very spiritual. I got used to the girl and I would talk to her. My parents would yell at me to go to bed. They thought I was talking to myself, but I wasn't. I was young at the time, so I didn't exactly understand about ghosts and spirits. I thought she was just a normal girl wanting to play. Eventually, she disappeared, probably because I got older. Our family moved countries when I turned 14, and my grandparents now owned the house. My granddad decided to knock down the pillar in my room to make the room bigger. Guess what he found? A skeleton of a young girl, no older than 5. It was dated back to the 1890s. My mum was horrified. She kept asking how I knew, and I told her I was friends with the girl. Also, in my parents' room, there was a tiny door. It was bricked up, but we had no idea where it leads. But considering the skeleton in my room, I wouldn't be surprised if there are more bodies hidden within the house. I could sense a spirit in my parents' room. I was terrified to go into their room. Every time I open my wallet, it's freaking empty. That's the scariest shit I always get to experience. Kind of late to comment here, but here's my story. First, a little backstory. When I was about 13 years old I stopped seeing or talking to my grandpa. We were always super close, but he made some choices that really hurt my feelings. But from the age of 13 I never saw him or talked to him again. By the way, I literally never dream of my relatives. My mom passed away when I was 7, and she's never in my dreams, nor is my dad. I know I'm weird. So one morning I woke up and instantly remembered dreaming on my papaw. I recalled the whole dream. I was walking alone on an old dirt road, and I saw a car coming down the road towards me. As the car got close, I realized it was my papaw driving. He pulled up alongside me, and it appeared that he was moving away, like he was leaving. He rolled down his window and waved at me and said, "I'll see you around," then drove off. I remember thinking about it over and over that morning, because it was so rare that I had a dream that involved him. A few hours later, me and my dad was getting ready to leave the house, and as soon as we got to the car, I heard the phone ringing inside the house. I ran back inside and picked up the phone. It was my aunt. She said, "Papaw passed away this morning. He killed himself." I was literally in awe. I never thought he would do such a thing. Papaw was in his mid-80s and apparently was having some heart issues, and instead of losing everything to hospital bills he decided to take his own life. He had been on my mind that whole day and it really freaked me out. It's like I somehow knew something happened to him without actually knowing. I think about that dream a lot and it still makes me feel eerie. Probably going to be buried, but here we go. Things I should probably point out before going into this story. My friends and I are all of the outdoors type, having spent a vast amount of time in the woods between the 5 of us, and having heard just about every noise possible in the woods. We were also armed at the time. The woods be a scary place, don't you know? My friends and I, when bored, would go into the woods here in Oregon and call in coyotes. No, we were not hunting coyotes, so this night in particular, we head out there at around 2 o'clock in the morning. We proceed to go to a bit of forest that we have been to many times in the past, which was the top of a hill that overlooks various clear cuts. We had driven up to this area and had parked our cars and hiked the last bit to our final spot. The first thing we notice, or didn't notice at that moment in time, was the absolute absence of noise. I'm talking like no noise, no normal sounds of nature. Even early in the morning there was no birds, no bats, no coyotes, no wolves, no owls, not even insects. I'm talking nothing but the sounds of wind rustling in leaves. We had a coyote call with us and began using it for about 10 to 15 minutes with zero luck, no callbacks or anything even in the distance. So after that point we had abandoned our previous plan and decided to mess around by blowing into the coyote call in various beats of songs and tunes. Think of the Star Wars Cantina music and epic sax man. We are now just laughing and having a good time before we decide to just blow into it as long and as hard as we could for probably the next 10 to 15 minutes. So these factors all added together would lead to animals just staying the hell away from us and our area, or so we thought. About 350 yards behind us in the tree line, we hear a sound and noise we have never heard in all of our combined years and experiences in the woods. It sounded like a super low air raid siren with a metric ton of bass. I mean enough bass to make you feel it in your chest. So we all whip around to the tree line and are mainly yelling, "What the F was that?" It then sounds again and is in the process of getting closer. So now the firearms make an appearance, and once more, we hear it even closer. Some yells are made, and again we hear it even closer. Now warning shots are fired into a berm, with the reasoning anything like bears, elk, deer, wild dogs and mountain lions will run at the sounds of gunfire, or if it was someone trying to pull a prank on us, they would call out, "Not this thing." It just sounds like it got even more pissed and sounds again even closer. At this point it sounds like it's between 175 to 200 yards in the tree line. We have now seen the error of our ways and proceed to run as fast as we can towards our vehicles. We make it to our vehicles and proceed to drive out of this area like it's a rally stage until we hit the highway and make it back to town and freak out about what it is we had just heard. I still am not sure what it is we heard, but it was by far the scariest thing. Sleep paralysis. Woke up and couldn't move or make any sounds. And the air around me felt like it was smothering me, and I could feel that there was something in the room. And it was as if I could feel hatred and anger emanating from whatever it was. Was absolutely terrifying. It took enough effort that would have thrown me out of bed just to roll over and break myself from it. I was lying in bed one evening as a 16-year-old. All of a sudden I felt what I can only describe as a mild electrical current going through my body. A split second later, a voice in my head, not mine, nor could I categorize it as male or female, said over and over, "Turn on the light, turn on the light, turn on the light." I lay there confused for a few seconds. Then the electrical current got stronger and my bed started to gently shake. The voice was still going, and by this time I felt a little paralyzed by fear. The bed began shaking violently and actually started banging against the wall. All the while the voice was becoming more urgent. I sat up and put my feet on the ground. The voice and bed shaking then stopped. The light was still off. I looked to my left and in my wardrobe mirror could see a person standing with their right hand on their right hip. The person would have been standing directly in front of me, but with their left side toward my front. They were in the mirror, but they sure as hell weren't in front of me. I jumped up and turned on the light. The whole experience probably took 30 seconds. Slept with the light on that night. I also began locking my door after this experience. I had a room that was once an outside shed, but had been converted to a bedroom. Not too many nights after a male attempted to get into my room. I could tell by the size of them, they were unable to, due to the locked door. I didn't make the connection at the time, but I'm pretty sure I was being protected by someone or something, with all the turn on the light and bed shaking. Not too sure about that figure though. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe. See you on the next video.